my God. Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode of So Alli, the podcast with your host, your girl, Alli Simpson. I cannot believe that we're on episode 2. We're on week 2, guys. I'm hitting you with another Thursday episode, and this one's going to be fun. This one's going to be really, really fun. You could probably tell by the title. I thought it might have been the perfect way to start rolling out my deepest, darkest secrets. This episode is called Turns Out I'm a Toxic Boy Magnet. And I swear to God, I am a certified toxic boy magnet. I don't know how. I would much rather it be very different, but I can't say I've had the best of luck in my dating life. Let's just say you girls had a pretty bad run. Somebody tell me why and how I keep doing this. I don't know if I'm just attracting bad dudes or if I'm like deep down, I just really like toxic dudes and bad boys. You know, I thought for a while maybe that was my problem, but now I'm just sheer out of luck. So it's time we change that. Okay, babes, now let's get straight into it. Now I know we all have that one ex, maybe 2, maybe 3, 4, 5, and counting. We all have that one ex that we should have left on red. Now, I don't just have one. I'm definitely one of those people that has had multiple exes that absolutely should have been left on red. In this week's episode, guys, we are diving into my experience with toxic guys. Now, have I got some shit to unpack here? And no, this isn't just going to be a roast session. I'm going to cut the guys some slack. I'm not just going to sit here and roast them all and cry poor me. It's going to be me debriefing, unpacking some things that I've been through in past relationships, what I've learned from them, how I dealt with them, how I healed from them, and we'll try to dive in on how to spot the red flags before it's too late. So this is just going to be a bit of a story time, a bit of a therapy session, and hopefully somewhere along the way while we're talking about all of my shitty experiences, we can come to some sort of conclusion that there are nice guys out there. There are nice guys out there and nice girls that are fully capable of love, emotionally available, not manipulative, and fun, I'm sure. I know they're out there. It's just slim pickings, in the words of Sabrina Carpenter. Now, disclaimer, I'm not going to be naming any names on this podcast, of course. I'm not trying to get sued and shit. You know, I'm not trying to start any wars. I'm not trying to open old boxes or anything like that. We don't need any of these guys coming running back anytime soon, or the opposite, ending up not very happy with me. So we'll keep all of that confidential for now. But that's not stopping you guys from doing your little deep dive and investigations onto who I've dated and maybe connecting some dots. That's not up to me. I am just going to be sitting here spitting some truth and talking about what I've been through. Now, if I've got some guys listening, which I know that I do because I've seen the stats from the first episode, I'm so stoked with you guys. I'm so happy about how the show's going already. We're only on episode 2. I'm over the moon, but that was me getting a little sidetracked. But yes, guys, don't get me wrong. I know that girls can be equally as toxic. I too have probably been toxic. I'm just here to share my experience in dating over the last few years. So strap in. Now, to give you guys a little bit of insight and perspective into the people that I've dated in the past, I've compiled a little bit of a list here. Yeah, it doesn't sound great. I've dated a love bomber, a drug addict, an incredibly impressive narcissist. I'll give him that. Very talented man. I've dated a man who didn't tell me he was engaged. Can we just let that one sink in for a second? A man that didn't tell me he was engaged. Okay, I had no idea. This is a story that's coming up. I've dated celebrities, they who shall not be named, the Voldemorts of my my dating life. I've dated an ex's best friend. Not proud of that one. I don't recommend it. Never ends well. We'll also get into that. I've dated chronic flirts, gamblers, cheaters, someone who is now gay. Very happy for him. Get it, queen. I did suspect it. I've dated a very obsessed OTT guy. All the above, you name it. Now, I wanted this episode to be episode 2 because I do feel like I have quite a bit of insight to share, because as I reflect and look back on all these different relationships that I've been in, I've learnt so much about men, so much about myself, so much about relationships. So I really am just sitting here wanting to serve some insight and wisdom and maybe help you guys through anything that you might be navigating in your love life. Now let's get started. I have come up with a segment for today's episode, which is pretty much going to fill up this whole episode because I have written so much down, but it is called Tales from My Toxic Files. I like that. I was a little bit proud of that one. Now, this is where we open the vault, my vault of poor decisions, lessons learned, and stories about men that should have come with fucking warning signs stuck to their head, okay? They should have. I'm talking about the guys that make you question your fucking sanity and your whole life. But these are also the guys that have given me insane and amazing podcast content. So for that, I can thank them. So thank you to them. And this is why it is EP 2, otherwise known as the emotional crime scene that is my dating history. Now, some of these stories are stories that I swore I'd never tell again. I swore I'd never revisit because they just caused me too much emotional trauma. But here we are. I didn't start this podcast for nothing, because if I suffered, at least we can now laugh through it together. So grab a drink if you want, lock your phone, and it's time to open the vault. Now, before I dive into this, I'm not perfect. So don't think I'm just sitting here complaining about all these dudes and what they did for me and not taking any accountability as to why these relationships failed, okay? It takes two to tango. But this is my perspective. These guys and these stories are in no particular order. These are pretty scattered all over. So what I'm going to do is run you through a number of files. So I'll tell you about them, tell you some stories, and then at the end of each file, I will tell you guys a lesson I've learned and the lessons I took away from dating said guy. File 1. The love bomber. Amazing start. Now, I know I said in no particular order, but this one has to be one of my very recent. Where do I even start? He came in so hot. Like, he came in so hot and so hard. That sounds a little rude, but no, he came in so hot and so hard. It was like fucking fireworks. This was like the kind of crush that was just intoxicating and crazy and happened so intensely and so fast, which I guess that's what love bombing is. This is the kind of guy like the, oh, I've never felt this way before type guy. That's really nice and sweet if you get that from a guy that you've been dating for a while and he knows you and he's falling in love with you as a person, but not after like a week. Okay, not after a week. You flag that if that's coming that soon. But what did I do when this crush started up? I fucking believed him. I ran with that shit as hard as I could, because that's the most confusing thing about love bombing, right? It's like when they're coming at you so hard and so hot and heavy, you kind of feel like you have to reciprocate the behavior. Because it's like, if I'm getting all this from him and I'm not sort of meeting him on this level, then it's going to go away. Or is it going to be all over? Like, I know I was thinking like, do I have to match this kind of energy for this to work? But like I said, I ran with this shit so hard because I mean, like, who doesn't love a bit of grand romantic energy? The one that you feel like just sweeps you off your feet. That's exactly what this was. But it was very strange because it was a little bit of long distance. And I feel like we kind of like fell for each other online. I mean, it's not that weird because it happens all the time these days, but the way that this escalated was really, really, really bizarre. So when I think of love bombing, and this is the only time it's happened to me, I know love bombing gets thrown around heaps, but I didn't know what it was, nor did I understand it until it happened to me. It felt like being swept up in like the world's biggest cyclone, like this crazy ass cyclone of just love and butterflies, and then poof, he's gone. Dust. Pulling the fucking Houdini on me. I'll tell you what, he disappeared faster than my dignity after he dumped me on FaceTime. That says it all. He left, and damn did it leave me in this like post-love bomb hangover. Circling back to the dumping over FaceTime, might I add that that was only 2 weeks. 2 weeks after he said, I love you, and 2 weeks after he asked me to be his girlfriend. Yeah, 2 weeks is a very, very short time to be in a relationship with someone. So can I even call him my ex? At this rate, I feel like it doesn't even count. The wildest part about this is the night before he broke up with me on FaceTime, he was asking me to post him on my Instagram. So I really don't know what went wrong there. I'm going to bring it down to just some crazy ass love bombing. Like when I say love bombing, it's everything all at once. It was, you know, the texts, the FaceTimes, the calls, the Instagram DMs, Spotify playlists, love letters. Let me tell you, he was doing this all day, every day, right up until he wasn't. And that is the strangest part about it. He did tell me when we ended it wasn't because of anyone else, but he now has a new girlfriend and had a new girlfriend within, I think it was maybe 2 weeks. And they are now plastered all over Instagram. Very happy for them. Very happy I'm out of it. Now, lesson learned in terms of love bombing. Love bombing feels like a fairy tale and ends in ghosting. So you really need to look for the signs early. And I think trust your gut. If you think things are happening and moving too fast, even if you want to take them steady, or you're just feeling really deep down that maybe this is moving too fast. You know, people around me were observing and telling me that it was moving too fast, but I was so caught up in the crush of it all, I got carried away. If your gut is telling you it's too much too soon, like for me, the love you I felt like was too soon. Putting a label on it as boyfriend and girlfriend that soon too for me had never happened before, but I was so swept up in it all. I said yes, and then that decision ended up proving me wrong. And look, like I said, if your gut is telling you it's too much too soon, you are probably right. And that is my biggest lesson. Just look for the signs early, guys. Look for them early. File 1. Concluded. File 2. This is a bit of a fun one. The obsessed one. Now, this one was maybe too much of a good thing. Like at first, it felt amazing. You know, like the constant texts and compliments and the I just want to see you all the time. And this love did feel real. And it was beautiful for me in the beginning. But then as time went on, kind of didn't really sway that way. It went from all the great things in the beginning to then kind of getting a little weird. Weird as in, you know, why aren't you answering the phone call? I can see you're active on Instagram. Or why aren't you replying to me if I'm out with my girlfriends? Or, you know, things like that. So the more it went on and the deeper it got, I started to feel less and less like his girlfriend and more like a project he wanted to monitor. If you know what I mean. It escalated to the point where he was texting me constantly. Like I'm talking hundreds and hundreds of texts a day, multiple FaceTime calls a day, maybe more than 20. You know, like I didn't have anything else to do with my life. I'm busy. I've got shit to do. It started to frustrate me. It did. It started to annoy me. And when I say the obsessed one, like I'm talking about the kind of guy who's like tracking your location or the kind of guy that would get jealous of your Uber driver. At first, it definitely felt flattering, kind of feeling like, oh my God, finally someone who cares. Finally someone who sees my worth. Like this feels so nice. He's like showering me with so much love. But soon I sort of felt like I was in a season of You on Netflix. Unfortunately, me being in this relationship and the time that I started watching You happened at the same time. So unfortunately, I was watching You while I was in this relationship. And the only thing I could think about, and when it really clicked to me, was when I was watching You and I thought, holy shit, I'm dating Joe Goldberg. It's how I felt. And that was just like the decision for me. So yeah, me saying I felt like I was dating Joe Goldberg, if that gives you any context, I'm sure it does if you've seen the show, that was where I was at. That was the obsessed one. One of the lessons I learned from this guy, look, I think if you're dealing with anybody like this, when I just want to know where you are, I want to know who you're with or what you're doing, when that becomes a daily mantra, like, babe, that's not love. It's surveillance. If you feel like you're under constant surveillance, it's not going to be a healthy relationship. And I guarantee you it's not going to end well and it's going to come to some sort of awful end, and then it turns into them bloody stalking you down the street. You know, they know where you live. So old mate starts driving up and down my street. He knows the cafes I go to. He shows up there. These are the things we need to avoid, and that is what happens after a breakup like this. And it's hard with that sort of type because for me, and definitely what I'm looking for now, like I find it so damn attractive when a guy has his own shit going on. And with this guy, when we were dating, I feel like he revolved his entire world around me. And I don't think that's healthy for anyone to do in a relationship. And I know when I was young, I've actually done that with guys before because I so badly wanted the relationship to work, or I was so obsessed with them that you just do everything you can. But the thing is, if you do too much, unfortunately, you end up pushing them away. So I think that you're never going to have a proper, healthy, safe and fulfilled relationship unless you've both got your shit sorted and you both have your life going. And basically when you come together, everything is better. That's how it should be. So if you're in a relationship where you start to feel more anxious than safe, it's time to exit stage left, girl. So the main lesson I learned from the Obsessed Files was attention isn't affection. Attention isn't affection. And if someone's love is feeling like surveillance, it's not love, it's control. Flag it and keep your boundaries up, girly. Okay, moving on to file number 3. Now, this is an interesting one and always a little bit of an emotional one to unpack, but this was the drug addict. Now, putting the label on it, drug addict, an alcoholic sounds a little bit heavy, but I guess it was something that he was battling for a long time, and it was kind of just chronic partying basically every weekend, long benders. This one was a wild ride to say the least. Now, I dated this guy a few years ago, but the funny thing is that he's actually 10 years older than me. So when we dated, I'm the age, I'm like, does this make any sense? So when we dated, the age I am today was the age he was dating me, which is a really interesting way to reflect on that relationship actually, because I don't know if I'd be doing these things at at my age now in a relationship. So that says a lot. So me and this guy, we dated for a year and a half maybe. And a lot of it was good, but a lot of it was bad. I feel like it was very 50-50 and very up and down, this relationship. Just to give you a little context, we dated for 6 months before I found out that he was doing coke every weekend. So we were living in LA at the time. I was young. I was loving partying and just going out and getting amongst the nightlife every weekend, as you do as an 18, 19-year-old living in Los Angeles. But yes, it is really funny because I didn't know that he was doing bag every weekend for the first 6 months. Because I was so young, I never understood why him and all of his mates, it's so funny to reflect on now, but I never understood why every time we'd go out for big group dinners and we'd have so much fun, and then we'd go to the bars, and then we'd go clubbing, and then we'd go to some house party, and then we'd all end up back at our house, back at our apartment. And I could never understand why they could stay awake and party until 4 a.m. when I was like passing out asleep at midnight after 10 drinks, you know? Maybe it was because I was so young and I was so oblivious to the world of cocaine and drugs that I had no idea that that's what was keeping them up. I just thought, damn, these guys are professionals. Like they can party and go on and on and on, sometimes for days. So yeah, it didn't click to me until we actually went to karaoke as a group for my boyfriend's birthday party. And I brought along one of my best friends at the time. We were there, we were drinking, we were having fun, singing, dancing. Old mate's there. Old mate is in the boyfriend at the time with all of his friends. There's a big, big group of us. Anyway, I go and give him a big kiss, go and plant a big one on his face, as you do. And pretty much instantly, straight away, my mouth went numb. My lips went numb. They were tingling. I didn't know what had happened. I then started freaking out that like someone had spiked my drink. Like I never would have thought it was because my boyfriend was on cocaine and obviously put it in his mouth and like transferred some over to me. I was so oblivious to it. So I say to my friend, I can't feel my face. I can't feel my face when I'm with you. But I was like, I can't feel my face. My lips feel weird. Has someone spiked my drink? What is going on? And she was so chilled and she goes, oh, is I almost said his name, is so-and-so doing cocaine? And I was like, oh, right. I was like, how on earth did that not click to me? That is why they can stay up all night. That is why they can party for 4 days straight and not go to bed. It just didn't click to me until that very moment. That then obviously led to a big argument between him and I because I brought it up. And he was trying to be sweet and get himself out of it by saying he just didn't tell me all these weekends because he didn't want to introduce me to cocaine and introduce me to the world of drugs and drag me into it, which is great. Super respectful. Okay. I appreciate that at the time, mate. But the lies is what I didn't appreciate. I think if he just told me and more openly communicated what had been happening, then it might have been a little better. Yes, it was a very interesting time. And unfortunately, me being so young and in LA and surrounded by all of that for so long, I did end up getting caught up in that world with him, which was a wild time in my life. And it turned into one of those just party-fueled relationships. Like it was so up and down, so on and off. There was always fights. There was always something happening. And it just wasn't a stable, healthy relationship. I just eventually had enough. I got fed up with it. He eventually opened up about his struggles with drugs and alcohol to me. So what I did, and this is something that I always do in relationships, I put him first. And I did everything that I could in my power to try and heal this guy, because it just got to the point where like I loved him so much that I was going to do anything I could to help him and help him fight these demons. I do definitely feel like I kind of lost myself along the way, and I just gave him so many chances. I gave him so many chances that I wish I didn't, and was a little bit stronger to just stand up for myself and walk away, but you can't tell yourself that when you're young, can you? It's just one of those things. Eventually, I knew it would take its toll, and it sure as hell did. I just couldn't deal with going any longer or any more nights, just like not hearing from him for 4 to 5 nights at a time. You know, if he was out partying in Ibiza, or he'd just go ghost. And I knew that's because he was on a bender, and not letting your girlfriend know if you were safe or anything like that is kind of not ideal. I also eventually found out after we'd broken up that there was a bunch of other women in and amongst all of this as well. So that sucked. But all in all, funnily enough, he actually ended up ending it with me so he could heal himself. And I have absolutely no idea at all how he's doing with it now, but I definitely do wish him the best. I think it's one of those things that I kind of became his like emotional rehab. Like I was really confusing love with trying to save someone that maybe wasn't ready or didn't want to be saved. This is my lesson learned from this one. You can't heal someone who is not ready to heal. Look after yourself and the right love will find you. Love shouldn't feel like a rescue mission. Never let a guy treat you like shit just because he's battling demons at the same time. His behavior should never be excused. Time for file 4, the narcissist. Now let me make this clear. I hate people throwing around the word narcissist because I think that it's a very freely used label and it's used way too frequently, maybe on people that don't deserve it. But let me tell you, my guy was a certified narcissist, like to the extreme that maybe I wouldn't even be surprised if his name popped up if you looked up what narcissist meant on the Urban Dictionary. If you haven't heard this word before or you don't know much about it, I will give you the actual definition. A narcissist is a person characterized by a deep-seated sense of self-importance, an excessive need for admiration, and a significant lack of empathy for others. They are characterized by having a high self-esteem and believing themselves to be superior to others. They tend to constantly seek approval and recognition from others and may display egocentric and arrogant behavior. This was a doozy. This was the kind of man that saw mirrors more than he saw me. And this is the hard thing about narcissists. He was so charming, so magnetic, and so confident and potentially a little bit obsessed with himself, but I saw right through that. In the beginning with narcissists, you definitely don't see it, and that is kind of part of the whole experience with them because in the beginning it just feels like a whirlwind. There's just constant like presents and trips and holidays, and you're just sort of blinded by their confidence, I guess, and I definitely was. I thought he was just a very charismatic, over-the-top, funny, loud, life of the party, was the star of the friend group, always being the loudest and funniest in the room, and that was something that I completely fell for and didn't see any narcissistic traits in the beginning. And again, this was kind of like the love bombing thing. I've only ever had it once. It's like you don't understand it unless you've been through it and lived in a relationship for long enough, and then you realize... But I didn't really realize that it was as narcissistic and controlling as it was until I had exited this relationship. I guess narcissists are always slightly in love, well, not slightly, they love themselves. So I did actually say when he broke my heart in the end, I actually said to my friends that the only successful relationship that this guy will ever have will be the one with himself. At least I know that's always going to work out for him. That's a little bit brutal, but it's kind of true. It's kind of true. And I think if you've been in any sort of relationship like this, you would understand. So yeah, it is kind of crazy to say in the end that he actually broke my heart. But I was so allured by him in the beginning that I seriously saw right through it. I had absolutely no idea what was to come. So the relationship became really, really toxic, and it was like solely based around games and manipulation and control. And this was one of those lessons I had to learn because I fell so hard for him in the beginning. And then I found myself in the end being completely controlled by him, which I hate, but it is what happens when you're in a narcissistic relationship. You don't see it when you're on the inside, but everyone around me saw it. I was so controlled by him to the point that I started to change who I was to please him. But once that was over and I was out of it, I saw everything. And I swore to myself that I would never get into another relationship like that. And I haven't since. We were so in love and intoxicated by each other and obsessed with each other, but not in a good way. You know what I mean? It's one of those things like it wasn't, that stuff can be good if it's healthy. Yeah, ours wasn't in a good way, and it turned out not ending very well. So we can do a whole episode on breaking this down, but yeah, definitely gets me a little fired up. But now we've come to the lesson that I've learnt with this one. Lesson learned from file 4, the narcissist. I left that relationship with one major takeaway. If you have to change yourself and your being and your beliefs to please somebody else, walk away. If someone only loves you when you're at your best and doesn't love you or be there for you when you're at your worst, you're dating the ego, not the person. Next. Okay, so the next file is crazy. File 5, the secretly engaged one. I feel like these are episodes of Friends, but they're all just bad. Okay, so this one actually blows my mind. And to this day, I am still deeply rattled by this one. It really upset me. It also probably instilled some major trust issues in me because yeah, God, this was not good. He was a bit of an older guy. On paper, he seemed perfect. Almost like too good to be true. The dates were fun. We would go out for dinner and like laugh and have drinks and just talk for hours and hours and hours on end. The first few dates definitely seemed just way too good to be true. The thing that I did flag with this one quite early, I did find myself asking the question, okay, how can a man like this, who is his age, he's super hot, he's so successful, got a great job and career and everything, be so amazing and so fun but still be single? That was the question that was lingering in my mind when I first started dating this guy. Mind you, it didn't last very long because I was able to find out the truth quite quickly, thanks to the help of my mother, actually. So I'll give you the quick rundown. Been on a few dates with this guy, went and saw my mom and she goes, something doesn't feel right about this. And the biggest flag that I should have flagged in the beginning, he was on private on Instagram, right? But I had followed him on Instagram after our first date because I thought it was a successful date. And he never accepted me as a follower, like ever. But I was trying to justify it in my head being like, okay, well, he's old, so maybe he just doesn't use Instagram very much and he hasn't been on and he hasn't seen it. So we continued to go on dates and they were great and everything was awesome. Again, no red flags. It just seemed all too good to be true. But mum goes, yeah, I don't know. Something is up here. So we did a little bit of mother-daughter investigation and we found that he had mutual friends on Facebook with one of my mum's friends. So we just gave him a ring. Let's just ask him. We'll give him a ring and ask about him. And basically, pretty much straight away, my mum's friend said, oh yeah, I know him. He just got engaged. And he was on speaker and my heart fell out of my chest. He just got engaged and we went on a date last night and hooked up. Like, ew, huh? What? And I was like, no, you've got to be joking. And he's like, no, it's all over Instagram. Like, surely you've seen it. I'm like, no. I haven't seen it. One, that solves my problem as to why he didn't accept me on Instagram. He didn't want me to see said engagement. And two, I was like, give me her name. Like, I'll stalk her page instead. Found her page, ended up seeing their engagement everywhere. Like, this engagement had happened 2 weeks prior to, I think it was 2 weeks prior to our first date. What? Like, that to me is just bizarre. So I was like, okay, well, what do I do in this situation? Obviously had to bring it up to him. So me thinking I was pretty funny and clever at the time. Like, I mean, in all honesty, I felt so awful. Like when I first found out, I burst into tears, but not because I was upset about him. I was upset about what I was now involved in their relationship that I had absolutely no idea was going on. I had no idea he was engaged. It made me so upset to know that I'm going to have to do something. I'm going to have to tell her or have a really difficult conversation now. It basically broke my heart. I felt so awful. I felt sick to my stomach. So what I did was I screenshotted the photos from the engagement and it was the most extravagant thing I'd ever seen. And I texted him a picture of it and I just said, so you left that detail out. That was all I said. He replied pretty much instantly and said, are you okay? Huh? Are you okay? Didn't say anything about it whatsoever, just are you okay? I replied with, are you? Mind blown. So that was wild. I don't even know how to explain my feelings with all of that. And I did not see that one coming. Like, I wouldn't even know what advice to give you guys because this guy, let me tell you, he must be like the world's best liar because everything that he must have told me on those first few dates would have been a complete lie. He just left out the minor little detail that he had just been engaged. So, lesson learned with this one, if something feels off, it probably is. It's as simple as that, but I can't even give you any advice on that one because I didn't even feel like something was off. I was lucky that my mum has a double psych degree and was able to pick up the fact that something was wrong. File 6, the celebrities. Ooh. I know you guys probably just got a little bit excited, but I think I will save file 6 for some episodes to come. Sorry about that. We can move on to file 7, the cheater. Unfortunately, I've had a few of these, so this is just one example. I guess the saying, once a cheater, always a cheater is very, very, very true. Yeah, so this guy, he definitely swore that I was the one. And you know what? Maybe I was on Tuesdays. Maybe not on the weekends. seen other people like it was a fucking side hustle. But I found out by doing some deep diving and some investigating. Like at this point, I probably could have started like a private investigation agency or some shit with all these clues that I can collect. I'm practically a professional at this point, and I do hope that the next relationship that I get into, I don't have to pull out the fucking PI skills. Okay? Sick of it. Yeah, I just ended up finding out from so many chicks afterwards. They're like, yeah, girl, like you should not have been dating him. And I'm like, oh, damn it. Where were you guys 6 weeks ago? Anyway, it happens. But the lesson I learned from him and that situation is that if you're constantly seeking proof of loyalty, you already have your answer. It's, again, as simple as that. So these are some great lessons that I've learned from all these. It's seriously the only way I can look at it. We've got 2 more files. I am talking your ears off, but file 8. This one's a little bit controversial. The ex's best friend. Shit. Yeah, I did go on to date my ex's best friend after he broke up with me. I think this is like when you're young, it's like peak heartbreak revenge. Like this was peak heartbreak revenge. Yeah, like, oh, that'll hurt him because he hurt me. Mind you guys, I was very young. It was definitely heartbreak revenge, the worst kind. I definitely don't recommend it. I'm not proud of that one. You know, this guy really hurt me. He cheated on me. The relationship became to a toxic end and I was heartbroken. And in my defense, it was actually the friend that reached out to me first. I'm going to blame it on him. He initiated it. But obviously, I said earlier in the episode, it takes 2 to tango, and it did. It starts out, you're just talking. Maybe you're having a few laughs about the ex, XYZ, and, you know, a few drinks get involved and it just crossed the line. And once I crossed the line, I couldn't go back. All in all, obviously, that ended up ending as well. So I really just became the main character in the plot twist of the boys group chat. Yeah, I'm not going to live that one down. It was a wrong move by me. Also the wrong move by him. But if I could go back and do it differently, I would have done it. Funny enough, I actually did run into the ex, the first guy on a plane the other day, and he completely ignored me. So I assume it's a bit of bad blood from the old ex dating situation. Like it's been long enough. Let's move on. File number 9. This one isn't even bad. This is kind of my favorite one. Yeah, this one's not toxic at all. It's just a classic. So I had this guy, this crush that I dated for a very, very, very short amount of time when we were much younger. And it was so fun and young and innocent. And it was kind of funny because I did wonder when we'd go on dates why he wouldn't kiss me or not want to kiss me as much as maybe I wanted to kiss him. And I'm like, oh, maybe he doesn't like me. Or maybe he just sees me as a friend. Who knew? I was all up in my head about it. And then I guess when I did get a kiss in, I'm like, damn, he's a great kisser, which makes total sense now. I haven't even said what the file name is. The file name is The One That Is Now Gay. That honestly deserves an applause. Because we are all good now. And I am so goddamn proud of him. So hell yeah. At least one of us found the right team. That's my toxic files. I guess it's a major collection of my heartbreaks, my hard lessons, some hilarious red flags in disguise. I can definitely sit here now saying that each of them has taught me something, you know, in so many different ways about boundaries, self-worth, about what real love should, and I say should, feel like and what it shouldn't. It's taught me a lot about myself and what I believe I deserve. And honestly, reflecting on all of those situations and experiences, I wouldn't change any of it because if I didn't have all those experiences, I wouldn't be the girl sitting right here in front of you today. I would be very different. So all of those experiences, relationships, and guys have shaped me into the person that I am today. And the person that I am today and the Alli that's going to move into another relationship eventually, hopefully a much more successful one, is unapologetically her. I feel very ready for that now and I'm in a really good place. And I think that moving forward, fingers crossed, we don't have any more files added to the vault because it's too much. I'm pretty ready for things to start being good. Now, before I wrap up this episode, I definitely do want to make it clear that not all men are toxic. There are definitely some amazing ones out there, you know, emotionally intelligent ones, guys that are actually emotionally available. And I can say that I haven't had all bad. I've definitely had some guys along the way that restored my faith, I could say, in love and relationship and friendship. But unfortunately, those guys, and during that time of my life, I wasn't ready for a relationship. So it was like when you thought the right one was there, I wasn't in the mental space or ready for a relationship. So it's just that weird timing, 6 degrees of separation. I don't know, not the right timing. What do you call it? Revolving doors. Yeah, so that's a little unfortunate, but again, wouldn't change that either because I don't believe that they were meant to be. Moral of the story, there is hope. And I don't want you guys listening to this episode thinking, oh my gosh, there are so many bad guys out there and I shouldn't trust anyone ever again. I've just had a pretty bad run, and I know there's a lot of people in my life that have also had a bad run. There is hope. I believe they're out there. They're somewhere to be found. I don't know where. If you guys know where they are, hit me up. I know the right thing will happen at the right time. So I guess what I want you guys to take away from this episode, if you're out there dealing with anything that I just spoke about, all those files or all these lessons that I've had to learn, you are not alone. I do think that every hard relationship and everyone that comes into your life, this is a quote that I do love, that everyone comes into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And that I truly believe. This was 9 reasons and a few seasons, but I think they all come into our lives to teach us something. Toxic people can teach you what peace isn't, and I think that's really powerful. Now I know if it costs me my peace, it's too expensive, babe. Like, I don't want it. So guys, that is it for this week's therapy session, I should say. Remember, babes, if he's not bringing you peace, he's bringing you problems. So flag them early. You deserve better. I am here to help. I love you all, and I goddamn mean it. But yes, remember, if he's not bringing you peace, he is bringing you problems. Now, before I wrap up, don't forget to follow at So Alli Podcast on Instagram. Follow me at Alli Simpson again too on all social media. And remember, I have a new episode for you guys every Thursday. Just drumming that into you again every Thursday, babe. So keep those calendars marked. This was a very fun and emotional episode. I feel like I need to go have a glass of champagne right now. And let's just hope that these guys that I have mentioned, I haven't said any names, let's just hope that they don't listen to this. Because I think if they did, they would know which one was them. But hey, like I said, they all had their good and they all had their bad. It's called growth, baby. So I am very much looking forward to next week's episode because next week we have our very first guest. I'm not going to tell you who. You can drop it in the comments and try and guess. I'm sure most of you would connect some dots and probably be able to figure out who my first guest would be. But that will be next week. So until next time, strap in, babes. This is So Alli. Episode 2, over and out. That was a fun one.